I caught my wife cheating on me with her assistant. It actually got me promoted, but she had to suffer a lot. Got my revenge. My wife, I'll call her Sarah, and I worked for a pretty big not-for-profit in Western Canada. This particular organization is in the public eye and has a lot to do with politicians, and for the last 8 or so years, our organization has been trying to get a certain agreement signed and recognized by the federal government. Anyways, without getting too into the details of that, my wife's position meant that she was constantly on the news and working with big wigs and traveling the country and kissing people's butts. I guess literally and figuratively now. I found out she was cheating on me with her assistant that she hired about 6 months ago. She was in the Department of Stairs and me in the registration department. We actually met at the organization 8 years ago. We both started within a few months. We both worked our butts off to get into the positions that we're in now. It wasn't easy, and obviously, like I said, she kisses butts and she's super charismatic and has a way with words. When she speaks, people listen. When she walks into a room, she demands people's attention. I'm a little more introverted, and for the years, that really worked for us. Well, I ended up having some health troubles and had to go on a short-term disability, so I wasn't at work for a little bit, and this is sort of when it all started, or at least when I figured something was up. Some things to note: I'm almost positive that her assistant didn't know we were married. I'm sure of this because he would look at me strange when I brought her lunch or brought her coffee in the mornings. He looked at me as if like, "Who the heck are you?" He knew who I was and that I worked in the building, but I'm not sure that Sarah ever told him who I was to her. I mean, it's not like we went around the building saying, "Hey, we're married." But like the people who work there, no one gossip travels fast around the organization because people like drama and like starting drama, which is why I ended up finding out that things were going on. A little background info. Sarah is 45 and I'm 43. It turns out that we actually went to the same high school, but it was a bigger school, so our paths never crossed. We have 2 kids. We have a son who's 7 and a daughter who's 5. They literally are the loves of my life, and I truly believe my life didn't start until they arrived. We hit it off right away, and at the time it was a big deal that we started seeing each other at work because it was against office policy to date anyone that you worked with. Technically, Sarah and I never really worked together because we dealt with such different issues. But when we had company-wide meetings, obviously we'd see each other there, and sometimes the projects I was working on would overlap with what she was dealing with upstairs. Eventually, people just let it slide, and it just became another thing. And like I said, we never screamed it off the rooftops and nobody seemed to mind. Not only that, but when you work in an office, people get kind of crazy. People flirt with everybody, and my wife is attractive. I will say that, and I constantly heard it from other people, and I even heard it from a lot of the female staff. People in an office space get kind of horny. It's sort of pathetic in a way. So her assistant, I'll call him Trevor, he's 29. He has a political science degree. I'll admit it. He's a good-looking guy. And there was only about 12 men in the whole building compared to like 40 or so women. So we were outnumbered. And when Trevor started, these single ladies literally pounced at him. From the start, it seemed like Sarah could have cared less. She seemed all business. She didn't even bring him up to me, really. I knew that she was hiring an assistant, but I didn't know that she hired a male. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But when I saw him and saw how good-looking he was, I sort of understood why she didn't say anything. And at one point, she even said that he reminded her of me, but a younger version of me. And in another time, she said that Trevor was the version of me if I didn't get in my own head. And I took a different career path. I was sort of offended by that. How am I supposed to take that? When I found out that she hired him and didn't tell me for a few weeks, I asked her why. She said, "Why is it such a big deal?" And then she laughed in my face, and she said that I felt threatened by a little boy. I'm like, threatened? And she's like, "Yeah, you're jealous." And yeah, I guess I was in some way. And yeah, maybe I was threatened. But I tried to argue to her that her omitting the fact that he was a guy and was good-looking sort of made a point. And she said I was being ridiculous because I wouldn't have had the same reaction if it was a good-looking woman. And I was like, yeah, okay, true. But would she still have slept with him and made comments that he reminded her of a young me if it was a woman? No, not only that, but I heard our secretary asking her questions about Trevor, and they'd both be giggling, another red flag. Yeah, okay, I was jealous, but who wouldn't be? Not only that, but I wasn't feeling well physically. So it was really eating away at me. I wasn't feeling my best. I wasn't my best. And I knew it. And I feel like Sarah really took advantage of that. So yeah, I go on short-term disability. And this means I'm at home for a couple of weeks. I become the main caregiver for my kids. And Sarah starts to work really long hours and goes away on trips. So when she was on these trips, she took this assistant with her. And then she's posting pictures on Instagram of herself in clothes that aren't really professional, or like on the beach. And I can tell that she has no bikini top on. The photo is just of her, but I know that he's with her. I comment on the photo and I'm like, scandalous, but she doesn't react to it or anything. Then I creep Trevor's page. He's got a public page and see that he's in fact posting photos of the same beach, but it's of the water. But then I know that they're together, and I know that my wife is laying on the beach next to him without a bikini top on. I text her and I'm like, should you be posting photos of like that on Instagram? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you're not wearing a shirt and you're showing a lot of skin. Do you think that's smart to be doing when you have a position that you do? People look up to you. And then we got in a huge fight and she didn't talk to me for the rest of her work trip. And I say that lightly, work trip. She was sleeping with him at this point. And another note, yeah, these work trips took her all over the country and she get time for business and pleasure that disgust me now. But I'm trying to just get through this with self-deprecating humor because that's the only way I'm surviving right now. But yeah, she'd have free time when on these trips. This particular trip was on Kelowna, British Columbia. So it was nice weather and she knew she'd have some time for the beach apparently. While she was there, I was taking care of the kids. I don't mind this at all. But what I did mind was the fact that she was having relations with someone other than me, her husband. It's embarrassing because everyone in the office knew this. They'd stay at work late together. They'd constantly be in meetings with a closed door and closed windowed blinds. But she tried to argue that she was having meetings about confidential things. Oh yeah, confidential, all right. A woman at work who didn't actually like her very much, Angela, ended up telling me recently that she heard moans and slurps and all kinds of atrocious sounds coming from that room. Angela and Sarah shared an office wall. And the thing about this office building is that it was gifted to us and it didn't have as many offices in the building originally. When the organization started, we literally didn't have any money. So we had to just make do and throw up walls. Some of the office walls in this place are paper thin and weren't meant to be permanent. And if Angela would have told me about these noises she heard back then, I would have just thought that she's saying this to complain about Sarah because she doesn't like her. But after it all came out and I caught them red-handed, I don't doubt her for a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So she's spending a lot of late nights there. And there's whispers going on about how close they're getting and whatnot. I'm in total denial. I can't believe she'd ever do anything like that to me. She posts more pictures on her Instagram, and it looks like someone is taking these photos of her. These photos look like they're in really intimate restaurants, dark, candlelit places. When she comes home after going out like this, she claims they're business meetings. And I sort of say they look like really intimate business meetings. And with my particular sickness at the time, I was having a hard time and she never, not once, asked how I was doing. She was always too busy working, and I can't remember the last time she was home to say goodnight to our kids. Even our kids were asking, "Where's Mommy? When's Mommy going to be home? I miss Mommy." It broke my dang heart. And what do I tell them? Oh, Mommy's working. Mommy's trying to help her citizens. Nope. Mommy's just cheating on Daddy and throwing her family away. Anyways, one particular evening I get a text from a number I didn't recognize and it was like, "Get to work right now. You're going to want to see this. Don't call your wife. Don't let her know you're on your way. But head for your office." And like weird, I tried calling the number, but it just disconnected. So I call my mom to come over to be at the house because my kids were sleeping and I didn't want them to wake up to go. So she comes over and asks if everything is okay. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just have to go help Sarah with something." So I go and park down the road so she can't see my car in the parking lot. I sneak into the side door with my key card. The lights are off in the building, but when I go upstairs, I can see that the lights in her side of the building are still on. It's long after everyone has gone home for the day. Too long after, in fact. And then I walk slowly up to her office. The door is open, and I see Trevor just giving it to her on the desk. She's been over, and she looks up and sees me. I'm just standing there. She has to hit Trevor to stop, and then she quickly pulls her skirt back down, and he quickly zips up his pants. And all I could say is, "Wow, Sarah." And it's the same old story. She tries to tell me that she can explain everything. It's not what I thought. And then I'm trying to walk away, and she's pulling at my arm, and I'm trying to brush her off. Trevor doesn't come out of her office, but I'm trying to make my way down the stairs and back out the side door. She's following me, and then suddenly she switches gears, and she starts getting mad at me for catching them. She's like, "Who told you? Why are you here? You didn't trust me, did you?" And that last one made me laugh. I said, "You clearly haven't given me any reason to trust you. I mean, what did I just walk in on?" But she's getting mad at me. She starts saying that I'm insecure, and she can't be with someone who's like this. And then she starts attacking my illness, and she's saying things that I'm not the man she married, and I'm weak and bringing her down. I literally had to tell her to shut up and not come home. I got on my car and drove back home. So somehow work got around to what had happened, and people from work started texting me, asking if it was true and if I was okay. Yeah, in that order. Shortly after that, I was supposed to get off of short-term disability. I asked to work from home for a little bit until I figured out what I wanted to do and how I was going to handle the situation. I knew that Sarah had the ability to pull the plug on my job, but I didn't want to lose my house or my kids, so I knew I needed this job. I needed to figure out my next move. First, I contacted my lawyer, and I told them I wanted to start the divorce process. Well, where I'm from, we have to separate first. So I was like, okay, yep, let's do that. Then a few days after that, I got a message from the same random number that texted me before. It was a video, and the video was all shaky, but you could tell there was Sarah and Trevor making out in her office again, on her desk. They were wearing different clothes, so it wasn't the same night that I caught them. Then another message came in, and it was another video. This time it was of Trevor and Sarah making out in her car in the parking lot. I saved them. All I replied was, "Thank you." And they responded with a thumbs up emoji. I sat there for a while wondering what I was going to do. I had to make it good. Then I knew there was an election coming up. And what I mean by that is that the person Sarah worked for had to be elected back into office. And the only way Sarah was going anywhere was if the person she worked for didn't get voted back in. So I contacted the person who was the opposition to Sarah's boss. I also happened to know that this person had a really good chance of getting in, but just needed a little bit more endorsements. I figured that this whole thing with Sarah could really look bad for Sarah's boss and their campaign. Well, when I contacted the opposition, I told them everything and sent them the videos that had been sent to me. I started endorsing this person, and as soon as this happened and the videos ended up getting spread all over the office. It totally divided the office. The organization had some really tense energy around it, and the whole process took about 5 months. During those 5 months, I had to go into the office and pretend like nothing was happening and that Sarah and I weren't going through a separation. But it was awkward. I'm not going to lie. And Trevor ended up getting let go. I don't even know exactly when, but Sarah let him go, and then she hired some 18-year-old intern. The intern was a girl. But not only that, as soon as these women at the office found out I was single, they were coming at me left and right and center. I hadn't had this kind of attention in years, and honestly, it felt good. Surely I flirted back. I'm not ashamed to admit that. But I'll never crap where I eat ever again. Then there, done that. My wife, sucker punched me with a good-looking F-boy. Sarah tried to come home a few times and was apologizing, and she said she missed the kids. But I said she was never around before. She never mentioned anything about missing me or the kids. So the only thing that changed is that she's going to lose it all in a matter of months. Legally, I had to give her some visitation rights, so she did have the right to come and see them at scheduled times. But I wouldn't be there. My mom was in the house though while this was happening because I didn't actually trust Sarah. She was very much the person who would try to pull a fast one and lock me out of the house or attempt to brainwash the kids against me. I wasn't going to let that happen. Anyways, when the election came, Sarah's boss didn't get in. Eureka! Sweet, sweet revenge. Within a week, the opposition came in, and they hired someone else to be there, Sarah. Not only that, but I was given a $15,000 promotion. We still have a bit to go on this road to divorce, but I just wanted to share my story. Think twice about dating anybody at work. You never know who you'll catch bending them over the desk you chose together. As for the messenger, I did end up asking Angela if it was her, but she was adamant that it wasn't. She thinks that maybe it was one of these women here that wanted to shack up with me for themselves. I like to think that it's Angela and she'll just never admit that it was her. I think she just really saw her chance to get rid of Sarah and took it.